A year ago, when Archbishop Coakley assigned me to come here as pastor, there were many things about this parish that I was excited to be a part of. One of the things I was most excited about at that time was that my sister and her husband are parishioners here, and so I was going to get to be with them. And now today, that joy is added to as we baptize my nephew, Emiliano. And one of the things about having a father who's a deacon is that grandpa always trumps uncle. And so we welcome also my dad. And just as a side note, if any of you parents have crazy children and would like to be filled with hope, just talk to my parents after Mass. A couple of years ago, I was on a retreat, taking a little bit of a break and spending some time resting and kind of renewing that relationship with the Lord. And I was praying with this passage. And at the time in my life and in my priesthood, I was a pastor for the first time down in Lawton at a parish, and I was also at that time, as I still am today, working in the vocations office for the diocese. And what that meant back then was that I would spend a lot of time driving. I would be driving back and forth, sometimes during the summer up to 5 times in a week between Lawton and Oklahoma City because of things I had to do here and things I had to do there. And at that time, it just felt like this constant motion. Like I was constantly going and going and going and going from one thing to another and to another and to another, and I was beginning to become very overwhelmed. I think that this kind of feeling of being overwhelmed is a lot of what the apostles were probably experiencing in that boat at the time. There was this storm welling up. They were being tossed about by the waves. They didn't feel like they had much control over their situation. And they were desperate, and they were afraid, and they were overwhelmed, and they were tired, I'm sure, and everything seemed to be going wrong. And to make matters worse, Jesus was just there, asleep, doing nothing, seemingly. I think if we all looked at our lives, we would see various moments where we have felt that same way, right? Perhaps between kids and school and activities and work and social media and the political situation in our society and the situation in our church and the situation in the world, and all of it just adds and builds and builds and builds and builds to where we can easily become overwhelmed. And we look around and we say, where is the Lord? Is he just sleeping in the boat? And perhaps the answer is yes. But I think in many ways, perhaps that's the point, is that even if Jesus is just sleeping in the boat, Jesus is still there. He rebukes his disciples for their lack of faith. He says, "Why are you terrified? Do you not yet have faith?" In other words, what he's urging his disciples to remember and to always keep in mind is that no matter what's going on around them, no matter what kind of chaos there is, no matter what kind of turbulence, no matter what kind of suffering and storms and lack of control and all of these things, as long as they're with him, everything is okay. As long as they're with him, they share in his life. And if they share in his life, they share in the only thing that really matters. Because they share in the thing that they were created for, to share in his own divine life. It's so easy when all of those storms are going on around us and all of the chaos and all of the everything that's happening. When it's all there and when it's all present in our mind, it's very loud and it makes itself known very obviously to us. And the temptation is always to focus on those things and to say, if only I can make those things go away, or if only I can make those things all calm down, then I'll be in a place where I can focus on the Lord. But there's a reason that St. Ignatius of Loyola, to his priests, gave them the instruction that they should pray for an hour every day unless they're busy. And when they're busy, they should pray for 2 hours a day. Because the reality is that the only one who can deal with any of those storms is Jesus. The only one who can do anything about it. It's not us, right? It's him. And so when all of those things are going on around us, rather than focusing on all of this peril and saying, Lord, look at us who are perishing, what he invites us to do is to look at him and to remember and to be utterly convinced in faith that as long as we're with him, we're okay. As long as he is there, as long as he is present in our life, and as long as we're taking the time to pay attention to that presence, as long as we call to mind and live in that presence and are aware that Jesus is living with us, and Jesus is living in us, and Jesus is living for us, then it doesn't matter all the other things that are going on. Because if he's with us, then we're okay.